Welcome to Future Hospitality Summit podcast. I'm Jennifer Pettinger-Haines, and I'm delighted today to be joined by my good friend Elie Milky. Elie is Vice President for Development for Middle East, Pakistan, Cyprus, and Greece, which is a really interesting mix of countries, which we'll touch on later actually, for Radisson Hotel Group. So welcome, Elie.
Thank you. Thanks, Jennifer.
Now, Elie, why don't we just get straight into it? So at the moment, there's a great deal of activity happening in the Middle East. And we're all aware of kind of the Saudi story and the UAE. But why don't you talk us through a little bit, in addition to Saudi and the Middle East, what's happening in the rest of the region? Because I know you're kind of quite involved in going into these countries and getting a real idea of what's happening there on the ground.
This has been has always been a very exciting region. It's always found a way to bounce back. It's always found a way to attract investments. If you look at, you mentioned Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is leading development in the region, and it's having a positive ripple effect on the rest of the region. And it's helped the entire region bounce back faster and stronger than the rest of the world. The region is less exposed to the inflationary rates of the European markets. It's got its own bubble of investors and opportunities. It's developing still. If you look at the UAE, for instance, Saudi Arabia has its own boom. The UAE is attracting foreign investors from different parts of the world, from Eastern Europe, from Asia, from Africa, because of the strong performance of the UAE market and because of the strong rebound of the UAE market led by Dubai, for instance. So we're seeing more conversion opportunities in the UAE, especially in Dubai. We are seeing more gaps for investments and more activity. In addition to the UAE, the rest of the GCC, such as Bahrain, is being led by a strong government incentive program to incentivize investments. It grew by 50% over the past compared to last year in business activity. We're seeing more activity there. Oman, we've signed a few deals in Oman this year. We expect to open a couple of hotels before the end of the year as well in Muscat. We're opening our second hotel in Kuwait next year, so we're seeing some activity there. Qatar, I just came from Qatar, spent the day yesterday to try to close a deal there for at least one hotel and potentially to get more. So despite, in addition to Jordan, I was in Jordan last week as well, and we're opening our first hotel in Amman. So there are so many pockets of opportunity across the region, which keeps us on our toes and makes it more interesting and more attractive. I mean, we could look at Syria still is yet to recover, but then again, we're opening our first hotel in Iraq in Erbil, Radisson, before the end of the year as well. We're seeing an improved security situation in Baghdad. We're seeing more investment activity there, and we hope to be entering the market there soon. Pakistan is another very interesting market. We signed 4 deals there in Islamabad at the beginning of this year, hopefully signing our 5th by the end of this year or early next year, showing it's a reflection of the strong business activity, economic activity there. The market lacks branded supply, so we are keen to enter the market very, very quickly. So all in all, from the beginning of the year to date, we've signed more than 10 hotels and resorts across the region.
Well, congratulations, Elie. That sounds like a very good year to date so far. So you can basically kick back for the rest of the year.
Go on holiday.
Yeah, exactly. Go on holiday. Your work is done. But what's really interesting, I think, is to hear what's going on in the other markets, because so much of the conversation has been dominated by the UAE and Saudi Arabia. It's great to understand that there's still opportunities in, Bahrain. Qatar is something that we haven't really talked a great deal about, since the World Cup. But it's interesting to see that there's still activity and development going on there. And then places like Jordan that haven't really had a much branded supply previously. And Iraq, you mentioned Erbil. That's something that was really on the radar. And we were all talking about Erbil about 5 years ago. But now you're seeing a bit more activity there?
It's always been more stable than the rest of the country. It's always been, we signed a hotel there maybe 10 years ago, which never materialized for different reasons. But suddenly, earlier this year, we got this conversion opportunity to take over an existing hotel. And this is where I don't think there's a lot of activity as such. I just think there are some opportunities and we were able to take advantage of one of them. I'm actually getting more leads in Baghdad at the moment because eventually, once the situation improves, it is Baghdad that's going to reposition itself as the hub of the country, as the capital of the country, um, as it recovers. And we mentioned Jordan as well. One thing I forgot to mention is that I recently met with the Ministry of Investment in Jordan and Ministry of Tourism in Jordan, and the Hotel Association, and they commissioned an agency called Expectation State to relaunch their tourism strategy in the country, and I enjoyed seeing that because what Saudi Arabia is doing is that it's reminding the entire region, whether they have a stable tourism industry or not, that they need to wake up, get on their toes, and try to bring in more business and just remind the world how attractive these markets are. And so it's good to be part of that story.
No, that's a really good point because I think you're absolutely right. There has been what you mentioned earlier, there's been this ripple effect. So even when I was home in Sydney over the holidays, people are now talking about Saudi and the Saudi opportunity, whereas before it was never something that would have been mentioned. So I think Saudi's doing a great job in terms of putting the Middle East out there for the rest of the world. And it's wonderful to see places like Jordan that have such tourism potential, taking advantage of that. And let me ask you, you also, just to quickly touch on Pakistan. So that's a market that we really don't hear too much about in this part of the world, but it sounds like you guys have really made a good entry into that market. Can you tell us a little bit about the dynamics there?
Yeah, I mean, Pakistan, when you first enter a market, you're talking about a large country with a large population. You're talking about main cities. You're talking about secondary cities, a bit like Saudi Arabia in many ways. A very rich country with rich resources, an educated population, a great potential that has its own political and economic challenges, like many countries. So we signed 4 deals there in Islamabad. So we've identified the main cities of Islamabad, Karachi, and Lahore to enter the market. So with these 4 deals in Islamabad, we're now going to start venturing into other parts of the country. These hotels are going to start opening within the next 2 to 3 years. We are now we're being very, very selective. We're meeting with investors that are able to deliver, developers that are able to execute. We're not only looking at these main cities, but we're talking to investors about having a portfolio of a deal or a strategic opportunity to develop several hotels, mid-scale, upscale, across secondary cities across Pakistan as well. So it's work in progress. I'm flying there. I'm flying to Islamabad next month. It'll be my first trip to Islamabad. I've been to Karachi a few times, but I'm flying there next month to have meetings, to see our projects, to look at new opportunities, and hopefully to sign a new deal there as well. So it's exciting, and I hope there will be more news coming out of there in the coming months.
Well, it's interesting what you mentioned there because I think that takes us nicely onto your session for Future Hospitality Summit. You were speaking about having owners that have a portfolio of kind of a diverse range of products, and looking at not just their venturing from the major cities into the secondary cities. So for Future Hospitality Summit, you've got a great panel lined up talking about sustainable development. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you think sustainable development means to you from your perspective?
Sustainable development, in order to have sustainable demand from investors or sustainable investment opportunities, is first of all to keep those opportunities, to proactively bring opportunities to the table. So when we have a hotel with an existing owner, we improve that, we deliver with that owner, we improve that relationship, leading to the point where the owner wants to do more hotels with us. So we have that side of that pillar which is the main one. In our case, more than 70% of our owners have more than one hotel with us. This gives us a strong base to do more hotels with these owners. Another thing that I think is very, very important is proactively going out into the market and identifying investment opportunities, the gaps in the market. I keep using Dubai as an example. Everyone thinks Dubai is oversaturated. In 2020, in the heart of the pandemic, I was quoted to say that there aren't enough rooms in Dubai when half the hotels had shut down.
Yes.
And I was criticized for it. I had a few calls after that. I received a few calls and messages after that. But look at Dubai today. 95% of the beach resorts in Dubai are in the 5-star category. The gap in the market is having more affordable resorts in Dubai that will perform exceptionally well, more than the average resort elsewhere in the world. We recently opened our Radisson beach resort on the Palm with 400 rooms, doing exceptionally well. That's a good example. But it's one of the very few, the 5%, one of the very few resorts, beach resorts in Dubai that is not in the five-star category. So that's one way of identifying locations. Another thing that I think all the other operators are doing quite well is launching new brands and products that are tailored to the investor, that are tailored to changing times, that are tailored to specific locations in Mecca, in Medina, in Saudi Arabia, in secondary cities, and across the region. Sustainability of demand from investors also involves conversion opportunities that keeps the development pipeline active, where you have unbranded hotels and you tailor your brands to take over and to brand some of these unbranded hotels. It's a very interesting model, and it keeps us busy, and it gives us a reason to keep doing what we're doing, and it's a very exciting part of the job, because if we didn't have to do all of that, then it wouldn't be very, very interesting.
So really it's about developing the relationships with your owners and identifying the gaps in the market and kind of bringing opportunities to them rather than the other way around. So being proactive rather than just reactive.
In addition to that, and building on that point, is cross-regional investments and connecting investors to each other. So in many markets, I see an investor looking for a co-investor, and then when you bring a co-investor, it happens maybe 1 or 2% of the time. You try it 100 times, it might work once or twice, but when it does work. So that's another way of actually stimulating investment and actually finding solutions for investors with the network that we're building through across the regions, across markets, and across projects.
So it's really kind of adding value to your owners as well, rather than just being an operator. You're also actively kind of bringing them opportunities and potential co-investors.
Correct.
Well, it sounds like you've been very busy. And one of the things that has been keeping you busy that I've been quite envious of when I speak to you, you seem to be always jetting off to Greece or Cyprus or, some exotic island, Mykonos, I think, at one stage. Now, tell me a little bit about what's happening in those markets, because I think we're seeing a lot of investors in this part of the world looking outside for potential opportunities. So tell us a little bit about Greece and Cyprus and the dynamics of those markets.
You know what's interesting? I go to Greece and Cyprus maybe once every month or once every 2 months, but I travel across the region every week. People tend to remember only the Mykonos trip or the Santorini trip, I
don't need to go to Riyadh again, but Santorini,
which is understandable. But at least all these trips were fruitful. Not that I'm just flying there without any results. And over the past 5-6 years, I've been covering Cyprus, and we became the largest operator with 5 hotels and resorts and residences in operation under development in Larnaca and in Limassol. Hopefully, we're doing something new in Nicosia, the capital. So we've become by far the largest international hotel group in Cyprus. In Greece, we've had a fantastic success story as well. We went since the launch of our expansion strategy for Greece in 2019. We increased our portfolio from 2 hotels to 12 hotels.
Wow.
We've had 2 consecutive record years of development as Radisson Hotel Group in Greece last year and this year. I think we've beaten the market this year with the most number of signings, with at least almost 1,500 keys and 4 to 5 hotels signed this year in Greece. We're expecting to open 4 or 5 of these hotels by 2025, hotels and resorts in Athens, in the Portoheli Peninsula of the Peloponnese region, in the Mani area of the Peloponnese region as well. Over the past 2 years, we've opened our hotels we've opened the Radisson in Skiathos, we've opened the Radisson Blu in Santorini, we've opened the Radisson Blu in Mykonos, we've opened a soft affiliation Radisson Individuals with the Social Hotel in Athens. It's a beautiful story. We happen to have a strategy in place. We happen to be in the right place at the right time. We happen to be ready for the development. And we happen to forge a relationship with investors that I believe others have not been able to do. So it's something we're very proud of.
As you should be. Because as you say, it's a really great market. And are you seeing, in terms of the investors that you're working with, Are they primarily from Greece, or is it international investment coming in? I mean, you mentioned there's a little bit of Middle East money also that you're seeing.
Yeah, it's a nice portfolio of local investors. The Greek market, like many Mediterranean markets, is is a bit resistant to international brands because of the old mentality of we know how to run our hotels. So we decided not to focus on the local operators, but some of them are starting to understand the benefits of an international brand. So we some of our recent signings have been with those local operators, and we're expanding that opportunity with other local operators. And we've also partnered with regional investors from the Middle East, Lebanon, Israel, the UAE. We haven't partnered with the UAE investors yet, but there is UAE money going into the Middle East, into Greece. And for instance, it's UAE developers that are investing in the world of Astoria in the Porto Heli Peninsula of the Peloponnese region in Greece. And it's that peninsula where we recently signed this summer 1,000 keys, three resorts: Radisson Blue, Radisson Red, and Radisson Collection, across 1,000 keys. So we are. It's good to see all this money coming in from regional investors, from local investors, and that has made it sustainable in terms of continued activity, and it has helped us forge strong relationship with these investors. And what I'm doing now on a personal level as well is connecting some of these investors with each other to be able to develop other hotels and other infrastructure projects. I'm working on a few things at the moment, and I'm hoping that, and I'm glad to be part of that success story in Greece and the recovery in Greece, because it's one of, in my view, it's the last most attractive EU frontier for investment.
Well, it's an amazing, amazing country with so much going for it. And as I was saying to you before the call, Cyprus, I think, is something that is underutilized, I guess, as a destination for the Middle East, because it's so close and offers so much variety on such a small island, that perhaps we'll see more activity of Middle East money going to Cyprus as well.
The kind of the Middle Eastern money coming to Cyprus is mostly Lebanese and Israeli because of the proximity. I would hope to see Middle Eastern money from the GCC. To your point, you're right. And I had also plans to introduce some of these investors to our owners in Cyprus for co-investment opportunities and transactions. So let's see how that goes.
We'll watch the space. And Elie, so wonderful to chat to you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you shortly at FHS. And hopefully it'll be a wonderful 3 days for all of us.
I look forward to seeing you soon too.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.